Everybody can hear. Everybody's good. Everybody's excellent. Beautiful.
Does anyone say anything? Okay, good. Sweet.
Good morning, guys. Thanks
Good
so
morning.
much. Thanks so much for joining us for our Sunday session. It is lovely to have you guys with us. We're obviously here in Montana, Whitefish, at our Budokan Big Sky retreat space, and it's cold. There's been snow on the ground.
Not as cold as it was last week.
Yeah, last week it was 15 below zero.
Yeah, I think I've never
So
experienced
it was a
that
little
before.
chilly.
Fahrenheit.
Yeah, 15 Fahrenheit below zero, correct.
Yes.
And it was, there's been snow on the ground since October. And I don't mean on the ground, I mean the landscape is covered in snow since October. And we've been, as you know, if you've been hanging with us, we've been snowboarding and training and still living life and having a good time.
Things we do together, right?
That's it. And fighting and surviving. So today's Mind Science session, we thought this actually was Melane's idea.
I invited myself, basically, to the party.
That's how we got married, exactly, pretty much.
Good for you.
Yeah, exactly.
You got
So,
a special invite.
I did. I got an invite to our wedding, exactly. Here are the dates, and you'll be arriving. But Melaine had an idea. She was like, why don't we do a little session together? And what inspired you to pick this subject?
I was listening.
Why don't you start off with the subject and then
Yes.
give us the background?
Well, I was listening to a podcast with Esther Perel, who I really love as couples therapists and also in the domain of personal work. And she specifically in that podcast was talking about monogamy and not monogamous being our nature, but then she took the conversation into shared values and how shared values can keep a couple together. And that ignited in me the thought of talking about our personal experience as to why we stay together as a couple who not only loves each other, but who also works together, which can be obviously a challenge, but at the same time, it also can really make sure we stay together because we have this shared mission and a shared vision that we're both working towards together.
Yeah, contest the relationship. I think that a lot of people, when I talk to people about the configuration of our relationship, I think that a lot of people are surprised at exactly how we are, our reality is constructed. Most people wouldn't probably choose this or even be able to survive this, but we are pretty much together 24 hours a day. Obviously we live together and so there is the fact that we share a common household. We still live in the same room together, miraculously.
Even though he started snoring since we moved here, which would be a reason to move out.
Yeah, apparently, this cold weather has affected my ability to breathe deeply. So we'll figure that out.
And maybe it's just my hand on your mouth. Right
it could be your hand over my mouth. Yeah, exactly. It's weird he's not breathing well. It could be that I'm trying to kill him in the middle of the night with my hand over his mouth. So I was wondering why I had received that insurance policy notification.
It's a trick I learned from Wagner Horscher.
Yeah, from Wagner, exactly. Some violent hugging. So we live together, of course, and we run a business together, and we don't have, some designated space to go and work. Our home is our workspace. So, we work, and I've always worked from home, and so when I met Melaine, she was working for Adidas in Germany, and when she came to live with me in Miami, then we moved in together, and then of course now we're working together from home, so we really are together 24 hours a day. It's pretty much because we train together as well, so we work together, we live together, and we train together. And so we have a tremendous amount of time spent with each other, probably more than, not probably, factually more than the average couple would have, but probably more than what most people could sustain. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's something that's important it's a testament, I think, to the kind of relationship that we have, which is first and foremost is a best friendship. You have to be best friends with someone that you're going to be with in that kind of that capacity. Yeah, it's you have to really enjoy the person. Mm-hmm. And I think something else that's very important is that you also have to be able to you have to be constantly inspired by the person. Mm-hmm. So what would make you inspired by somebody is that, in my opinion, at least these are the topics we wanted to talk about. One of the things that I think is very, very important when you're talking about long-term companionship is that your partner is constantly an autonomous individual who basically your partner can never be a yes man. They can never yes woman. Let me be gender neutral. A yes, they. They. Him, her, that, whatever that is for, you. So your partner needs to be very much, a free thinking, existing, individual who, as much as that can be frustrating, and because I think we fight a lot, we battle quite a bit, but that battling, which can be exhausting, the battling can you're like, fuck, I just want to stop I want to stop being challenged or being at odds with my partner on a daily. But there's something I think that's important about that challenge, because it keeps you questioning, and it keeps you, I think, investigating your own process and your own beliefs when someone's not simply agreeing with your version of reality.
And I think what's important to me personally is that I was seeking a relationship like that, because that is something that I know from my relationship with my father. Like, he is someone who is constantly challenging me and pushing me and making me question, like you were just saying, my current patterns. So I knew from my relationship with my father that this is a quality that I value in a man and in my relationship. So to come back and bring back the conversation around values, and something that I have certainly been programmed for from early on, is this quality of, I want a partner who challenges me, and I want a partner who also wants to be challenged by me, because this is just who I have learned to exist and coexist in a relationship. So I think there might be people who don't enjoy that, and I think it's important to even
Somebody would have killed you by now. I'm
Well, for
confident.
sure,
I'm
and I would
confident
have
in that.
killed some people too.
No, there's
clearly.
no doubt in my mind that someone, that they would already be trying to figure out.
They would have run away.
You would have already been on a Netflix show where one of those mysteries where they're trying to figure out who killed
Black
you
Widow.
and how they did it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and I'm confident because see, yeah, you have to understand, guys. You have to understand, like when I'm talking about pushback. I mean, you're talking about a person who's arguing, like she's learned to argue, when there's not even an argument necessary. Just the battle with her father has created almost this defiance. So we can be fighting, and I can be right if right is just what's accurate or what's correct in a moment. I can be accurate and she'll still create conflict just to push. And that's a habit of your childhood.
Sure, it's how I know to get stimulated in a certain way, and I know that this is my work about not being so diligent about being right. This righteousness in me.
Being difficult.
Well, it can become difficult.
It is difficult.
Yes.
When you're
so should we talk about
righteousness? Well, we'll get to me, I'm sure. But righteousness is difficult.
I admitted it on camera.
But that which is something that I'll probably try to take out later in editing and loop it for prosperity's sake. But being difficult is, and again, these are I think it's important to talk about what do we fight about? What's our real process like? And believe me, it can be incredibly difficult to be in a relationship with a partner or a relationship with anybody, your boss, your parents, your siblings, your intimate partners, where you're fighting with someone who's just seemingly being difficult, like holding on to being right, even though they know they're not right. And that can start, sometimes what that'll do to me is put me in a place where and this is the truth. You can have moments where you ask yourself, are you crazy? Because of course when you see reality and it seems very clear and someone's pushing back, if in a conversation she says something to me, I remember it and I recall it, and then she says, I didn't say that. And then I think to myself, am I fucking crazy? Am I losing my mind? Where she's just actually fucking with me, just to not be wrong in this moment. This can exacerbate sort of tensions that exist. So there has to be also a conscious knowing that you're doing that work together, and we are conscious of this work. Because one of my favorite statements to you is, you're being your dad right now, which is that I want to be right more than I want peace. And you have to keep bringing back. You have to keep bringing back to focus. What's the intention of this moment or the relationship? And if peace and resolution is the intention, then right can't be part of it. It has no place in that equation. You want to talk about why you love to be right?
I just said it because I'm with my dad.
Okay, good. I wanted to talk about it. This is therapy for me. I'm just having a therapeutic moment of like, yes, this is what I deal with on a daily.
Well, and I think there is exactly this process of knowing what your blind spots are, right? Knowing what your personal work is, and being.
Is it really a blind spot when you can see it so
it's
clearly?
Quite flashy.
I love that. Yeah, it's a blind spot. I can hardly see it like a lighthouse. It's just
in moments
practically unseeable.
But I already said it's not a blind spot for me.
Yeah, no, it's not. No, maybe it was a blind spot before the 6th year of our marriage, but now.
Well, and this is actually what I wanted to get to, that I was actually looking for a relationship that would make me grow, and this is why I've left several relationships before, because
you didn't leave. She's eaten men alive. Her dad. When I met her dad, we were having dinner, and he calls you what? Man eater?
Like a black widow.
Oh, black widow or something.
Yeah.
Like
but not anymore.
Well, yeah, because I was the only animal you were unable to kill.
You were able to survive.
Yeah, but her father's like, he's like, Millie, you're killing all the. I'm making her dad sound. He's German, actually.
German.
But she makes him. He would say, she would just go through men.
I just made choices.
Because they were weak.
Yeah, I just made choices.
But they weren't weak. Your poison is just exceptionally strong.
I am strong, I know.
I don't know if they were weak. They were just normal guys.
Well, they just let me get away with shit in the end. And I was eventually just bored by it in a way, because obviously I didn't grow. And growing for me was important. So I was seeking for a relationship and a man who I could be with that would push me, but who also would be open to be challenged as to where he is. So should we talk about you now?
No. So what we're going to talk about, what I was going to say is, what's also important, I think, for people out there who are listening, one of the most important things about retaining your autonomy is that you have to know your self-worth. The minute that you want to be loved by someone else more than you want to be loved by yourself, you've taken the wrong turn. This is a very dangerous state of mind to occupy, that you're desperately wanting to be loved by this person more than you actually are showing love for yourself. And there's just that's so important for all of us. And I think this is just one of those moments for you and I where you have a very strong self-worth, and a very strong, you value yourself. I mean, you definitely value your opinion. And I value myself, and I value my opinions and my intelligence and your intelligence. And if you don't really value those things in yourself, and in other words, you're not proud of yourself. You don't see yourself as a competent, capable, intelligent human being that's lovable. You will tolerate anything. And this is what I want to say about those guys who didn't stand for themselves, because they didn't really love themselves as much as they wanted to be loved by you. Yes. And now maybe that was an age thing. They were young, they were maturing. What does it matter? But the point is, it's very important that we establish a deep knowing of self and a deep love for self and a deep pride within oneself, that I'm just not going to
tolerate everything.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, I think yes, and that with that comes the knowing that I could leave at any time and be fine, right? Sure, there is heartbreak for the love that you feel for each other, but I think you can never depend your happiness and your personal fulfillment on that one person, because that one person will not even be able to fulfill all the expectations that we have anyway. So I think it's just, you cannot stay with someone out of the fear of losing that one person.
Well, and there are 8 billion people on the planet. So, guys, to think that you can't be happy with thousands, I mean, literally thousands of different people, is really a rather. It's just a rather childish and sort of narrow perspective and understanding of the complexity of nature. Like, I know that if Melaine left me, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to live again and be happy again. And I know that the same will happen for her, that she will be happy. And knowing that is in and of itself powerful, because I don't think that I provide her with what makes her happy. And she knows she doesn't provide me with what makes me happy. I am happy. She is happy. And then I choose, because I have my center of gravity, and I am fulfilled, and I am complete with or without her, without anyone, that she is simply a complement to my completion and I to hers. But definitely she does not complete me. I do not complete her. That is an absurd notion, and that is in no way in service to you if you want to be in a fully realized and healthy relationship.
Agreed. And I think this is a very, let's say, absolute understanding, let's say even more philosophical in a certain way, like that absolutely I'm intrinsically enough, right? So you can kill all the stories that will come from that place of fear of not being enough or not being lovable, etc., like you said. And then in the relative sense, this then also makes more clear and flushes out, why do you actually stay together with that person? Why do you choose this specific person over and over? And just to bring it back to shared values, and what I really like is this idea of a shared vision, and how you choose your partner, one, for the vision that you're sharing, but then also how do we execute this vision together as a mission, right? So how can you actually complement each other in a certain way? Because we certainly have differences as to how we approach things, and we have different skill sets, but they do complement each other, and they bring to life the vision that we both have, where we're both very anchored together as to what we want to create together.
Well, and I think it's important to sort of unpack that idea of what are shared values, and when a value is something that is a very straightforward construct. It's like I value quality time with my partner, and my partner values quality time with me. Or I value constantly being at work, and my partner values constantly being at work. So together, we're constantly at work. But here's the thing. We do both love to be working. Working for us means being productive, producing, creating, and when we're both doing that, we're independently being fed by our process. We just happen to share that value, and then we can do that together, and so we're twice as potent as a team. Because if I really loved working and producing, and you love chilling and literally like doing nothing but relaxing, we would
probably not last.
Well, we probably wouldn't last,
yes.
But we wouldn't last because we, at some point, we're not going to have enough in common.
Exactly. Yeah.
To, and this is what we both value. I value this experience. You value that, and they're so in a way, contradictory, that they don't support the space of togetherness, because they keep us in two different places, both mentally and physically. Mm-hmm. So it's so important that you get clear on, these shared values, and, because you can have different preferences. Mm-hmm. She can like chocolate, I can like vanilla. She can like matcha, and I can like coffee. These are preferences. They're not values. Mm-hmm. And so I think you have to be able to make those distinctions and understand them as well. Mm-hmm. Because you can love a person deeply and not share values. I mean, you really can. You could fall deeply in love with a person's personality, a person's way of being, a person's sexuality, their tenderness, and then realize you don't share anything in common with them from a value perspective. Mm-hmm. Because values are, again, I think very specific to ways of being, mm-hmm. not preferences, but ways of being in the world.
Yes. And I personally think there's a certain limitation to how many values, let's say, we are willing to give space to each other and last. I think, because to me, ways, and this is my personal way of framing values. Ways are very, very important. The how you approach things, the how you do things. So I think there would be a certain limitation for me to be with someone if we had completely different ways of doing things. If, let's say, the most important value, or the vision, I think the vision is for me the most important value, because yes, the ways of how we reach that would be different.
Well, here's the thing. Mm-hmm. We do have different ways of doing things.
Yeah, for sure.
Like we have very different ways of approaching certain issues, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. and that creates tension between us, because my approach, for me, I'm a manifester in a very particular way. When I want something, I begin to imagine it, mm-hmm. and then I begin to pursue it, and then I create it. That's my process. Mm-hmm. I imagine, I see something, and then I immediately begin to take action to create it. Mm-hmm. And I'm a terrible person to buy a gift for, because you're like, oh my gosh, I want to get him something that he's never gotten. Don't worry, I've already gotten it for myself, because that's how I do things.
But you want, you get.
Whatever I want, I get. I don't have this sort of longing where I sit and I'm like, gosh, I really wish I had that. The minute I want something, I manifest it. Mm-hmm. And that's one of my superpowers. Mm-hmm. And everybody's got a superpower, out there, where we all have these developed skills that we use, their strategies or tactics, ways of creating reality for ourselves. Mm-hmm. One of mine is that I have this very, very potent and powerful way of getting what I want right away. Mm-hmm. And but it's because my focus is so laser, mm-hmm. like just boom. Where you, Melaine, is far more intellectual about something. She's more heady about it. She takes more time with it. She's more patient. She doesn't feel, you feel like you feel the urgency.
I think it depends. I think I'm pretty good in distinguishing what is urgent and what requires immediate action.
This is another place of contention between us, because for me, as soon as I've imagined it, there's an urgency to create it. For you, that's the difference.
Well, and I think this oftentimes also goes to you have a bigger picture vision, and I oftentimes go into the minutia of the details of what is required to actually bring that to life. And I think this is where one of our tension points are, but I also think this is what makes this work and actually makes things still happen.
Well, yeah, because I'll say something
they complement each other in that sense.
True.
Yes,
this is true. Because I'll say something like, okay, we're gonna build this thing, and then the first thing out of your mouth is, or from your mind is, well, you know, where's this going to come from, and where's that going to come from? And I'm already, because as she said, I'm a big picture person. So for you guys out there, you know, you have to see that, you know, when you have a partnership, that if you guys are both the big picture person, this can be a problem, because who's the detail person? If you've got two big picture people, or if you've got two detail folks, who's the big picture person? Who's imagining where we're heading? So this can, you know, ours is a really excellent match in that way, but it does not come without tension. And I think that it's naive to think that you're going to be in relationships where tension is not part of the relationship. If you're in a good relationship, tension is a daily occurrence. Tension is what creates, in my opinion, tension is what creates sexual charge. It creates that
friction.
That friction,
fire.
And friction creates energy, and energy creates heat. And these things are important. And when there's no energy and there's no friction and there's no heat, what you have is you just have this kind of blah. And this is what kills relationships all the time, is that there's this lukewarm, sort of neutral tone to the relationship, and there's no fire. So it's better for you to have tension, because you can always resolve tension. I hope you understand that. You can resolve. How do you resolve tension? You fuck. You fight. You do it. I mean, you understand? That's how we resolve tension as an ape. We fuck, we fight, we, you know, do whatever we do. But when there's natural occurring tension, we relieve that tension by doing certain things. But when there's no tension built up, you just have this constant state of lukewarmness, neutrality. And that just leads people to die a slow death of boredom. And they just...
Well, because it's stagnant, right? There is no growth even happening. To me, the tension is always an opportunity to even recalibrate, right? To even check in on the values, on the ways, on anything related to the relationship. Because since we work together and we have a romantic relationship together and the friendship together, it gives us an opportunity constantly be checking in with each other where we are at. And I think this is what also keeps us alive, and what we both value in each other, that there is an appreciation for the fire, to look at our agreements and reevaluate where we are, to maybe even realize that, okay, we've surpassed that, or we want to change something without missing out on the bigger picture of everything.
Well, I do want to say this, that you have to know how to fight. You have to fight. You have to fight in a productive, healthy way. And you also have to have enough durability. The relationship has to have durability in order to sustain, in order to last through the tension. Because, as an example, if I look at Melaine and I say, no matter what we fight about, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. I'm right here. So we can fight, and you can push back, and we can say even things that we regret, you whatever. But if I'm not going anywhere, there's there's something that is sort of indestructible.
Well, there's a certain immunity in that sense, yes, just indestructible. Mm-hmm.
Right, and I think that that's very important for couples, is that you have to let your partner know, no matter what, I'm right here. Mm-hmm. Because if what's on the table is that either partner at any time could just bail or would bail, that keeps the relationship in a state of what is not healthy tension, because that's almost too fragile. It's like we're hoping this thing's not going to break. I don't worry about us breaking, because there's this spoken, not unspoken, a spoken commitment to staying together under any and all circumstances. No matter what happens peripherally, it's not going to damage this foundation,
right.
this commitment, because we're both openly and clearly committed to it lasting through whatever. Because guys, things are going to change. Obviously, you're going to lose sexual interest. It's going to come and go. You're going to lose emotional interest. It's going to come and go. All these things come and go in relationships, because you can't simply remain, nothing ever does remain the same. So whatever you feel about your partner today will not remain in 300 days, 600 days. It will change. Whether it becomes more or less, but it will become different. So to imagine that you'll just have this sustained feeling about your partner indefinitely is, again, very childish. You have to mature beyond the point of thinking that things simply, remain in a static state. They always change, and that those changes, that feeling that you may have about your partner, where maybe for a period of time you lose interest, you lose respect, you lose whatever, like something in you, like they do something and you feel completely shattered, or your perspectives about them, your opinions about them, your made up narrative about who they are based on how you've experienced them has been destroyed. You have to rebuild it again.
Because just something that came into my mind, whatever, let's say, you do, in that case is also a reflection on me, because as I relate myself to you, that says something about my values, right? Because let's say you do something that is not in agreement with my values, that will make me have to go dig deep and question my values, right? And do I decide to stay? And then that means, okay, I'm deciding to stay, so what is my new set of values, and where do our values match? Or do I decide to leave because my old values are just more important? So I think, like I said earlier, these are always opportunities. These moments of tension are opportunities for growth personally, because they make me constantly question, where am I at right now? And is this way, and are these patterns in service? Are they healthy for us as a couple? And are they healthy for me personally? Because I think, like I said, a relationship it just becomes part of our own personal identity. It's not just who I am with, but it's also who I am in the moment.
Well, as an example, Melaine gave me COVID last week, which almost killed me,
I tried.
Which is why I'm coughing. And you guys are laughing. You're like, you guys are silly. No, literally, she gave me COVID. Melaine, well, I mean, this is
I we're going to share everything, right?
Yes,
so we're going to share COVID too.
It was so sweet. we had this person. I mean, this true story. I mean, we might as well use true stories too. So, Melaine. One of Melaine's values is, I want to travel to Miami. I want to go back because this is where we lived for 8 years, and she's like, I want to go back and I want to get some sun. I'm like, I don't understand why you need to go back right now, because we're here now, and I think you need to sort of get acclimated to the landscape, to the different environment. And she's like, but here she is, like, booking a ticket, all ready to go back and have her Miami time. So I'm against this.
Different values.
I don't,
clearly,
right. I
in that
value
moment.
being here and rooting down and learning the land. She's valuing going back, making sure she's getting sun.
And seeing my friends.
And see her friends. So she comes back from Miami, and, maybe 3 or 4 days, we're on the ski lift going up the mountain. She's like, my throat, I feel like I might be getting a little bit sick. And I'm like, I scoot over. I'm like, well, I don't know anything about that. And I'm just like getting a little, and I'm like, I don't know why you're, and me, I never get sick. I mean, I exaggerate not. As a 49-year-old person, I've had the flu one time in my life. One time. I just don't get sick. I'm a fucking machine when it comes to that. I don't know why. And I'm around sick people. So I'm like, no problem. 2-3 days pass. Melaine's getting sicker. 2-3 days pass. I'm like, as I predicted, I cannot be sickened. And so I'm sitting there. And then the next thing you know, boom.
You're super thin.
I'm like, and I follow. And I was like, and come to find out, she has got COVID.
Not from Miami.
What do you?
I don't think. I did my research. So, sure, we don't know where I got it from. And it doesn't matter in the end.
Of course she got it
where
from Miami.
Probably when I was traveling.
She got it from traveling.
Yes, on the way.
So she comes back.
Yes.
And she's brought this back with her as a gift from Miami. Thanks, honey. So now I've got COVID. She's got COVID. Our housemates have COVID. Our interns have COVID. Everybody.
So basically, herd immunity at BDK Montana.
Oh well, yeah. Now we're all immune. Don't worry, guys. Everybody here now is basically, we're like a vaccine pool here. But and I will say this, by the way. I know this is a complete side note. One person, there were 7 people here that Melaine gifted, who got her gift, and one of those people had a vaccine because she's a healthcare worker, and she had a vaccine.
The first
dose of the vaccine. Everybody in our entire group contracted COVID but her. So when it comes to that vaccine, I'm a believer. I'm going to tell you, that girl, she did not get COVID. She had one dose. She didn't even get her second dose yet, and she tested negative. Did not get it. And so I will tell you, I'm not one. I've never had a vaccine. I never got a flu vaccine or anything. But I will tell you, I witnessed a house full of people get COVID, and the one person who had one shot from a vaccine did not get it. She did not get sick, and everybody got sick. Everybody got physically sick. She did not get sick, and she did not test positive. So if, I'm now personally a believer. I'm like, all right, that vaccine for sure works in a legitimate way. So that's just my personal story. And that's why we almost got divorced last week. So because you can imagine, I'm sitting here and I'm like, first of all, I told you not to go to I said, why are you going to Miami? And then you bring back the gift of COVID from her travels. So I can tell you, if you want to talk about tension, there was tension in the house. I was pissed off. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? No. And so I'm still trying to survive this thing. Thanks, Melaine.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, how do you survive? Some of you might ask yourself, how do you survive little things like your partner
Giving you
COVID, doing something that you tell them not to do and they do it anyway, and then they almost kill you with a disease, with a virus?
Yeah, how do you do that?
How do you survive those
stay?
moments?
Yeah,
Well,
tell me.
and then you want to top this off with the fact that Melaine already does not like to be wrong. So here's a person who doesn't like to admit they're wrong, who's now given you COVID. And you're like, and I'm waiting on that like sincere, deep, heartfelt moment from her where she's like, I am so sorry that I did that I didn't listen to you, that I went there and I endangered
That's
you.
the most
and
important
and
sentence.
you know what?
I did not listen to you.
And you know what? You know how much of that happened? None of it.
I said sorry. I still don't think.
Here's
think
Melaine.
what my point is.
My bad. Here's Melaine. She gives you COVID and goes, my bad.
Don't say that. That's not accurate. That's not accurate.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
I felt like it was a my bad.
No.
There was no.
I think this is how it's a projection. It's
no
just
projection.
like a story.
This is exactly
it's
what
a
happened.
story.
There was no deep, heartfelt.
No, I think I questioned the Miami as a place where I got it from, yes. But I clearly understand, obviously, that I might not have gotten it if I had not traveled.
Oh,
for sure.
You might not
but
have gotten it?
I could also have
Well,
gotten it at
guys,
Costco.
did you hear that? She
shopping.
might not have gotten it if she didn't travel.
I could have gotten it anywhere. Honestly, this thing is everywhere. We know it. It's everywhere.
See, now you're witnessing my relationship. Now you're witnessing. Instead of her going, clearly I got this from going home, she's still holding the position that maybe it occurred.
We don't know.
Who knows?
We don't know.
Yeah. Oh, but we do. That's the thing. But we do.
And I think that's where we have tension too, where you think you always know it. You know everything.
You know, I know if a car hits me, that car just hit me, and that you're not going to shake my faith in reality, but like you like to do. So, okay. Let's take some questions from the audience and see who might have.
Just don't ask me where I got COVID.
If you've got any COVID questions, feel free. I can answer those too. That surprising. But if there are any statements, thoughts, questions about the subject today, this would be a good time to jump into it.
What do we have?
What do we got? Let me see. Let's see. They mentioned this in Conscious Love. Understanding your happiness comes from you first to allow you to be in co-committed relationship and not in codependence. Yes.
Oh yeah, I actually love this book and I actually wanted to recommend it. So great. Who was it, Shadia? Was it Shadia who said that?
People are saying the connection.
Selective listening. They can't hear us.
Also, can't see black saying.
Well, they cannot hear you because you're far away. You're not on the mic.
Guys, the connection. So has the connection? They're saying that the connection's been bad the entire time.
The entire time?
Guys, you're saying the connection's been bad the entire time?
No. Okay.
No.
Maybe for some people. No.
Okay. Some people have been having some.
Okay.
Some people
no,
have been having some trouble.
I don't know if you guys heard that, but Shadia, she mentioned the book Conscious Loving, which I greatly love. It's an amazing book to shed some light on codependency in relationships, like where we choose partners to enable our old patterns, and they allow us to get away with it, or you create conscious relationships of co-commitment where you actually, like what we said earlier, call each other out and challenge each other on blind spots or red flashing blind spots. But Conscious Loving, I think, is a great book.
I want to say this about, well, two things that came up. Number one, guys, if you missed what we were saying if you missed the whole COVID, the people are saying they missed the whole COVID conversation. Remember that you can go back and watch the recorded version of this, which will not have interruptions. So you can catch what I was talking about with the COVID situation.
Too bad that they missed that.
Too bad. There's a lot of good comedy. Well, they don't have to miss it. They can go watch it later. But I do want to talk about conscious loving for a moment. One of the mistakes that you can make is thinking that, you know, you can build a relationship off of a construct. and what a construct is that instead of us being instead of us being
co-creative, that's how they call it in the book?
Codependent, we're going to create a relationship that is co-creative and
they call it co-creative and co-committed.
And co-committed, okay. So why that doesn't work for me, no, I mean, the concept works for me and the book works for me. What I'm trying to explain here is you can't create something off of a concept that you yourself have not embodied. If you don't know, if you don't live already in a conscious state of self-awareness, you're not going to be able to create that with another person. So don't think you're going to come together in a relationship and you're suddenly going to create this creative, co-committed relationship simply because you understand the general concept of co-creation and co-commitment. You actually have to be living that and embodying that before the relationship. You're not going to do it during the relationship. You can practice anything in a relationship, but the chances of that relationship surviving you practicing are not very good. If you want to have the greatest chance of success, do your work before you enter relationships. You can work within a relationship because not only can you, of course, you will continuously be working within a relationship. But to enter a relationship and then decide that's the time to start figuring your shit out, that's going to be probably too much of a strain on the relationship.
Yeah, I think
that's
something
an opinion.
that came,
that's an opinion.
And I think what came to my mind as you said that is because you probably entered that relationship for the wrong reasons, right? You entered that relationship
already codependent,
right? You've chosen that partner because I also like this idea, something that Esther Perel said, you don't find your partner, you choose your partner, right? Sure, you find them somewhere, you meet them, and then you choose them. So in that case, you would probably choose that partner to continue to live out those patterns and be codependent in that game, right? It's a game that you're playing together. And I think, sure, you can introduce a concept like that to a couple and obviously the individuals. And I agree, it's probably very, very hard work to just literally do a 180 turn because might be that one of these guys is able to tap out of it, but it doesn't guarantee that the second person will be on board with it. So yes, I agree. It can be quite challenging. I don't think it's impossible. I mean, we like to introduce the book to anyone who's studying with us, and it might create a shift. Obviously, hope.
I just don't think that the book, personally, I don't think that the book is as much about teaching couples how to be as much as it's about teaching an individual how to be. An individual,
yes.
And then as an individual, do your work. And then when you enter a relationship, you enter with skill sets because relationships require skill sets. They require communication skill sets and they require clear values, established values. They require a deep knowing of self and the ability to be self-critical and make self-adjustments. It's all huge. In other words, every relationship you show up to is only going to be as good as you are. Every relationship you show up to is only going to be as healthy as you are. So when you're fucked up and you're distorted, your reality, your versions of reality, when you've got tons of blind spots and tons of distortion, there's no way you're going to have some clear, healthy relationship. So if you're in a relationship right now, and this happens a lot, by the way, you're in a relationship, you recognize that you have a lot of distortion and you need to clear it up. You start doing the work to clear up your distortion, and your partner isn't doing that same work. And the next thing you know, you have massive issues occurring because one partner is growing in a different direction than the other partner. So now you have a whole nother issue. So it's very difficult to sustain relationships when you decide to get your shit together within one and your partner's not on board.
And there's even a personal anecdote for us. We both came into our relationship. We good? Yes? Okay, we both came into our relationship with, I think, a personal commitment to really do our work and get things right together. And I think as we spend more years together, we even got to know us better and things that we thought we had figured out, and even values that we thought we had and we wanted to co-create together that got challenged. But then we still had this agreement and the co-commitment of working things out together.
True.
So I think even, yes.
Yes, it becomes difficult when your partner stops developing and is avoiding conflicts. What do you do if you've worked your shit out but your partner has not?
So the question was, what do you do if you have worked your shit out but your partner has not? That was the question.
The question was, what advice do you give to someone who's doing their work but their partner is not doing their work?
I actually was in a relationship like that before, and I exited because there was just no more common ground to be found in order to be together. I mean, I think you can only inspire someone or push someone as far as you can. Like if they're not willing to do their personal work, if you cannot move from your position and embrace where they are in that moment, then there is just, to me, in my opinion, no way to be together. But it's a matter of really looking at what areas are these where your partner is not doing their work. Like how relevant are they to your relationship with each other? Is it about them as a person? Is it their personality? Like, it's
when it comes to matters of the heart where emotions are involved, you've got a complex situation here because you've got your intellect says this is not a match for me anymore. Maybe it was never a match, I don't know, but let's just say that intellectually you've reached the conclusion that this is no longer in service to you. But emotionally, you're still tied to this individual. You could be tied sexually as well. So you could be having a strong sexual connection, a strong heart connection, but you've lost the intellectual connection, the part of you that makes for a relationship's sort of longevity. Because I can tell you that sex comes and goes. Sexuality comes and goes. So that's not what keeps the longevity. It's really more of a byproduct of the other two. But you have to have deep respect and admiration for the person's heart. You have to really, look at your partner and say, I really love what a good person this is. That's important. That can also keep you hanging on when you've realized that this is not your intellectual match. This is not a person who's on the same page for you in terms of shared, values and where you want to go. So it is complex, and it is going to be sticky, and you are going to struggle, and it is going to be painful. But I think the inevitable conclusion is that the relationship, won't last once you've lost the connection. Once you've lost one of those two connections that are really crucial, and again, that's the intellectual or the emotional. For a woman, once she's no longer emotionally attached to a man, then all bets are off. I think that's a huge part of the process of staying together for a female, is once the emotional things just shut down, it's gone. As long as there's still heart connection, it can survive in some pretty treacherous waters. But if you can't recover the intellectual connection, which is shared values, common goals, common appreciation for certain things, then it's not going to come back. Now you might say to yourself, well, what if eventually they come back? What if I hold on long enough and they come around? I think that for you to get them to try to, I think you've got to be honest, and you've got to compel what is the word? Appeal. You have to appeal to their intelligence. Say, look, if we don't get on the same page here, this thing is going to simply end. And I think you have to be very honest and direct and transparent about that, so that you give that person a genuine opportunity to understand the severity of the situation. It's like a doctor coming in and saying, look, here's what's going on. You have, it looks like you have 4 weeks to live. It's likely you will die in 4 weeks. This is a terminal situation. Here's what's going on. Give you the chance to fight for 4 weeks, but not to tell you everything's okay. And then suddenly, right at the 4th week, you realize, it's too late. You're dying, and there's, nothing you can do because, again, you didn't see the urgency of the situation. I think it's only fair for you to let people know the genuine urgency of a condition. Be fucking honest. Let people know where things are really at. Because when you don't do that, you rob people of the opportunity of manning up. Womaning up is just old phrasing. So you got to get the fuck up on the horse and ride, or don't, but one or the other. You've got to, as we say, cowboy up. It's like you give this person an opportunity to get up and handle their shit. But if you don't let them know the severity of the situation, you actually rob them of that opportunity. It's now on you. The blood is on your hands when you don't let people know where things are at. So it's an obligation on your part, if you say you truly love a person, to be fucking honest, transparent with, with where things are at, and be like, okay, this is the truth. We're critical.
And you gotta know for yourself why it is critical to you. Why is it so severe to you? Something just came to my mind also again in the domain of codependency. Let's say you have a partner who has some sort of addiction, right? Which is in the domain also of personal work. And do you continue to enable that person by even staying with that person, or do you give them an ultimatum of you have to stop drinking, for example, for us to stay together, or if you don't stop drinking, I will leave. So this is just one example that came to my mind about is what is happening with that person severe enough, and has an impact on your reality and an impact on your reality as a couple, but also obviously something that this other person needs to do in order to have a healthy life? Or is it more personal preference, like something we mentioned earlier, let's say in the domain of sexuality, right? That your preferences might change, or you might come to an understanding that, well, I guess I'm not monogamous, right? What I thought I was or I am, and how can you work something like that out, right? You have to even know yourself, can I work something out like that, a change in sexuality, and why do I resist that? Even though the heart connection is still there, but I'm more intellectually challenged than I might be sexually challenged. So I think it really just depends.
Well, you're gonna have this occur in three different places. You're either gonna have intellectual disconnection, emotional disconnection, or sexual disconnection. Mm-hmm. And disconnection just meaning that you reach a place where you just see things differently, mm-hmm. and those differences create a disconnect. And then you have to decide, how are you going to reconnect? Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's not going to be on your terms. It's not going to be what makes you comfortable. You're going to have to find new ground to become comfortable in. Mm-hmm. And that's difficult for people. It's difficult for people to find new ground to get comfortable in, because nobody wants to really leave their space of safety. So if one of the couple says, I'm ready to explore things sexually in a different way, and you're like, well, I'm comfortable over here, that disconnect is either going to be the beginning of the end, or it's going to be the beginning of something unique and new and more growth.
And I think that there is the value. Do you value growth, right? Do you value staying together and continuing to co-create together?
Well, do you value growth, or do you value safety?
Do you value safety?
Yeah.
Yes, and I think this goes then back again to where are we rooted in together as a couple?
Yeah, mm-hmm. That's true. See if there were any further fascinating questions that came up for these guys. Anybody else with any little questions?
If the vaccine, about the vaccine.
Somebody asked if the vaccine was good or bad. I mean, obviously, no one can answer that question as a complete. But what the story that I was telling was that Melaine had gone away and come back and gifted us all with COVID, and you can get the whole story by watching this again. But the point was, we had a house full of. We had a group of people here. There were 7. Was it 7?
We were 9.
We were 9.
Yes.
And one of the, thank you. And now it was 7, now it's 9. But one of those in our group had been vaccinated because she was is a healthcare worker. Mm. And she was the only person who did not contract COVID and did not get symptoms and get sick. Mm-hmm. So what I was saying earlier when I cut out apparently was that I witnessed firsthand the potency and the success of the vaccine in a controlled environment where you had 9 people living together. Everyone got tested positive, with the exception of the one person who had one round of the vaccine. Yeah. So that's up to you. I'm just simply telling you from my experience, that's what I witnessed. Mm-hmm. And that I had been given the gift of COVID by Melaine. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
And it's still with me, that gift. But we all recovered very nicely and had full recoveries. I'm just starting to be able to smell and taste again. Thanks, Melaine. That was super fun. So we, one day I was just like, why can I not taste these sardines? This is so strange, because sardines are very
strong taste,
strong.
And smell.
But yeah, but good news was, that we all recovered 100%, and everybody's good.
We went through it together.
Oh gosh, it was so fun.
So beautiful.
So beautiful. Thanks again for that lovely gift. Oh, so yeah, I mean, as I said you missed that, is that things that test a marriage, like your partner giving you COVID, things that are tough. you know.
But you would want it from your partner and not like just a random person.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if, you know, if you're gonna get it from somebody you love, you know.
Yes.
It feels so much more nurturing. So guys, any other questions from you guys? And that you know, they could be COVID related. I mean, hey, I can now talk about that as well. And yes, everyone lost their sense of smell and taste. That did happen.
Someone is just asking about our thoughts on poly.
Oh, thoughts on polyamory? My thought on polyamory is, I mean, it really depends. You know, everything's sort of a fantasy when it comes to, or an imagination before it's a reality. So I think when you're thinking about polyamory, there's what you think polyamory would be like, and then there's what polyamory would be like. So in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, of course, I could have 10 different women living in the house, and you know, I'm just like, you know, I'm like, okay, it's beautiful, come together, everyone. You know, it's beautiful, we're all together now. And you know, sure, this all seems like, and everybody.
Why do you have this accent?
I don't know. It came. That's my accent. If I was polyamorous, I'd just be like, all right, abu, love, come all the beautiful ladies. So, and then there would be the girls would be walking around, and they would all be in these white gowns, and everybody would be cooking and massaging each other and taking care, and then there'd be music playing, harps, and I mean, it'd be beautiful, of course, and there would be no problems, and there would be no drama, and everybody would get along, and that's my polyamory fantasy. I don't think it would probably look like that as much as in my mind. That's how it would look. What's your polyamory fantasy?
Well, basically, it would be a house full of handsome young men.
Of course it would.
Which basically we have going on here right now, kind of, right?
And that's it. That's your. They're just. What are they? Are they naked?
They're
or they
all
have
topless, obviously.
Okay.
Gail would be here too, of course. She would manage it. Yeah, we would be eating grapes, being fed grapes. But I would not have an accent. I would just be me.
And just be you? Okay. Me. Would you have COVID and give it to all them as well?
For sure.
Of course. Yeah.
Part of the agreement.
You want to share that.
Yeah, we share that. We share everything.
So coming back to the reality of polyamory, where you've now picked up another person in the relationship. So now you had tension times 2. Now you have tension times 3. So that's what polyamory probably looks like, is that now you have 3 individuals to manage, managing each, or more. But let's just say you have a core partnership and you bring in a third person. I think that can be, I've seen it work. I, in fact, know, I knew a friend of mine named James. He was brought into a relationship with 2 other, the 2 men had been partners for quite a long time. They brought James in as a partner in their relationship and moved him. He actually lived with them, and they lived together. That was the first polyamorous couple that I had been, or group I don't know how to phrase that, but little family that I had been exposed to. And for them, it worked very well. Now, I know they probably went through tensions and things like that, but they all slept in the same bed, the 3 of them. They had a complete, they had a complete trust in.
Well, it was a real relationship between all of them, right? Because there's also a difference between polygamy and polyamory. And polyamory meaning there is an amorous, a romantic relationship also in place, not just a sexual relationship. So I think, sure, that brings in another layer of complexity, like you just said, but at the same time, I think there's the potential and the possibility for it to work out, as long, same as just with 2 people, everyone is doing the work, right? Everyone is working through their fears and whatever creates tension between these people.
And this is going to be very, very difficult. You have to imagine it's already difficult to navigate two people's drama. Now you're going to bring in a third person. So either that third person is an anchor point and they're actually more developed and more mature, and they can actually operate as a space holder, or you're bringing in a third person who's less developed and they're bringing in more drama. Sure. So, I mean, if polyamory is going to work, and which I think it can, and I think it does because I've seen it work, it's got to be the perfect scenario. And it's already difficult to find a good two. So to find a good three is going to take both parties consciously working to find the perfect third. It can't be that one of the partners simply stumbles upon a third by accident when that's not really a conversation going on in the couple. I think the couple has to decide to manifest a third, and they have to do it in a conscious, intelligent way and make the decision. Like, here's what it's going to look like, and
it's a choice, right? And it's the same choice as any person you would choose to be with. They have to fit into the whole full picture of, again, the values, right? Do they share the same values in their way?
I just think it'd be difficult if you and I were in a relationship, well, if we were, you and I being in a relationship, and then I meet a girl, and I'm like, hey, I would love for her to become a partner for us, and that's just not even something we were talking about, interested in. But I'm saying that's what I mean by both partners have to be
a
collectively
team
looking for that.
Yes, you have to be a
now,
team.
Now, if you said to me, I've got this.
You're like, I'm down.
I've got this
you don't
girlfriend
even let me finish
that I'm going to bring in. I'm like, fine, bring. Yeah, I don't even. You're just like, I met a girl. I'm like, fine, it's fine. If you want to bring her, fine. I mean, I'm gonna work it out emotionally. But you know, I mean, is she drama? I don't know. But if she's drama, no, she can't come. That's for sure.
I wouldn't pick drama.
Yeah, I know you would.
Yes.
But you would. But you say that. I don't know.
I'm already drama enough, right?
Well, that's hopefully, that's true. But so polyamory, yes. Polyamory, I think, is underrated. This is my Gary V comment. Yeah, I think polyamory is underrated. I think it's the future. I think there'll be more and more polyamory coming as these younger generations are more open.
As it becomes more of a conversation,
to sharing space. And the same reason I think open relationships are also underrated and are going to start becoming more common, because people are going to realize that you cannot fulfill your partner's sexual appetite for 40 years. You cannot fulfill a person's sexual appetite for even a decade. You're going to have to figure out ways to be you're either going to have to be creative about it in the sense that you're just going to have to look at different variations on the theme, or you're going to have to be willing to sort of tune out your sexual urges and cravings, which are natural in you, in place of just being in a partnership.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it goes.
We all just have to get clear and on board with the science that we are not monogamous creatures, and be very clear that monogamy is a choice, right? And that you have the choice. And again, this goes back to the same conversation. What do you value? What do you value in your relationship? And if your value is, I do want to have sexual exclusivity in my relationship, but your partner doesn't, either you work it out or you don't, right? You just got to know why it's not working out with this intellectual understanding of monogamy is not our nature, but it's a choice.
But I think there are a lot of people out there, when you feel disturbance in the force inside you, where you're like, I just don't feel that my current state of sexuality is like something feels off. Well, it's probably because you're actually in tune with reality. You're not naturally monogamous. Humans are simply not monogamous, females or males. So for you to be at odds with monogamy is in fact just it's just a reality check for us. Why are you at odds with it? Because it's not natural. Mm-hmm. Now, what you're going to do about that, that's up to you. That's the work. But it is definitely not natural to be monogamous. So the question then becomes more and more, what do you choose to do?
I mean,
right.
People choose to be celibate. I mean, everything is possible. You just got to know if you can and if you want it, right? And then if you in your relationship with your partner are both on the same page.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. Yep. More questions?
Okay.
Is that good? Okay, good guys. It's magical when you realize through your words that you are working on yourself in order to work it. Sure. Thank you for receiving a nice, good, beautiful guess.
Thank you.
Okay, sweet.
Sweet.
My wife doesn't like to share. Okay. Gabriel says, my wife doesn't like to share.
Anything and everything?
I mean, I will say this. When you, and this, there's two ways of thinking of this. And I'm talking, Gabriel, I'm talking to your wife. There's two ways of thinking about this. There's either I'm sharing my man, and this is your case, or I am enjoying her. And this is in this case for you, I'm assuming. I'm enjoying her, and we might let you in. I think that the problem that happens is that there's always this idea that the male is the one that is somehow receiving all of the pleasure of the situation, when in fact the focal point can't be on you, Gabriel. It's got to be on her. And if she's not interested in, if she's not fluid and not interested in being with a woman, then it is going to be her sharing her man. If she's fluid and open to being with a woman, then it's more about you guys sharing her, you guys enjoying her, not your wife sharing you. And it all becomes about perspective in moments like that. So you have to decide, does she want to enjoy another woman in this case, unless you're fluid too. So again, these are all variations, but given just the you and two women construct, it'd be her enjoying her and then deciding how much of that they're going to let you participate in, not you like sitting there just being, pleasured by two women, which is how I would imagine your fantasy plays out. Or and it may play out in your wife's head, but I think that's the distinction you have to make. But if she's not interested in a female partner, if she's not interested in fluidity in that way, then that particular construct is going to be complicated, not work for her. If she's like, well, I could do a male partner, then you would have to decide, do you want to be fluid in that way? And if you're not fluid, then you have to decide, well, would I even want to participate in sharing because now you would be sharing your wife in this particular case. You'd be sharing your partner with a male. So this all depends on individual sexuality, but if everybody's fluid in certain ways, the next thing you've got to work out is people's jealousies, people's insecurities, because you're not working out whether people can be sexual with other people. You're working out whether people can be emotionally okay with their partners being sexual with other people. That's the stuff you got to work out. Mm-hmm. So you got to figure out where you are in this formula. Mm-hmm. Everybody's fluid, you're fluid with this, okay? So we can work. Now, how do we now get over the emotional hurdle here that's in front of us? And that's the next thing you've got to work around. Mm-hmm. So if you were going to try something of that nature. Okay. So I just dance with her every day. If I can make her fall in love with me, that's the game I play. Love is unconditional, so I always win. Yeah, well, you got a good lady. She'll stick with you. It's nice going on as you want. Okay, good. All right, guys. That looks like the
Ooh,
final.
it's time.
Yep, those are the final questions. We talked about a little bit of everything: polyamory, open relationships, COVID, surviving, divorce,
Yep.
tension.
Yep.
We covered the gamut. So, guys, it was a pleasure for you to be with us. We love having you guys on our Sunday sessions. So thanks so much for tuning in.
Mm-hmm.
And now, you got some.
Oh, we got to move now.
You got some movement
Oof,
class for them. Okay,
yes,
sweet.
yes.
So, guys, take a quick 5-minute water break, pee break, get all your stuff handled, and then we'll get the floor
Clear
cleared
out your living room.
and get ready for Melaine. You're going to do
kitchen,
some
or
what?
whatever. Good question.
Are you going to be just improving? Okay, excellent.
Yep, we're just
Okay.
going to wing it
Okay, sweet.
together.
All right, guys,
Yes.
we'll see you in a moment.